Toys from a galaxy far, far away. Today we're going to do our solo review. I have Amazon Prime. It came up for rent on Amazon Prime, so I had the opportunity to watch it a couple of times. I like Amazon Prime because they give you like 36 hours, sometimes it's 48 hours to watch it. And I didn't get to go see it at the movies because I'm very, very busy. I was not boycotting it, so I want to get that straight. And this is our review. James?
I bought it on Amazon, and I've watched it 3 times now. And I love it. I think it's great.
You went to see it at the movies, right?
Yeah, I saw it in theaters.
Yeah.
I think on the premiere, and it was really good. Believe it or not, there wasn't that many people in the theater. There was, I think, 6 people total.
What day did you go see it? On what day of the week?
I think it was like Friday night, Thursday or
Really?
Friday night. Yeah, and it was a premiere night, and I was like, oh, this is not that busy. And I went to the West Side.
Now I can't
AMC,
remember.
though.
It came out close to another movie. Was it Deadpool?
Deadpool 2, which came
Deadpool
out
2,
like
yeah.
I think the next week or in that same area.
And it was also, I do remember, it was a holiday weekend. Was it Labor Day? I can't remember.
I think it was like
Anyway, I took notes. That's a good thing about being able to rent it and watch it at home. I love Amazon Prime. So, I want to say at first, like I said, I didn't like The Last Jedi. It's in my opinion that the last film reflects on the next film, but I still want to give them a chance, of course. And I like Ron Howard as a director. I know this movie had a lot of issues, pretty well out of the gate, but I've always liked Ron Howard. He's made some of my very favorite movies. And are you familiar with Ron Howard?
I've seen some of his work.
Yeah.
I'm 50-50 about some of it. Some of it I'm like, why would you make it that way, or what's the, not so much the approach, but what's going through your mind and how you visually look at a movie.
Right. Well, here in the last few years, it has been kind of hit and miss with him. He made that one. What was it? It's about the whale. It was basically a Moby Dick interpretation. I enjoyed it. A lot of people didn't.
I don't think I ever saw it.
Yeah. Heart of the Sea, I think it was, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, Solo starts out with Han Solo hot wiring a land speeder, and
on the streets of Corellia.
yeah, and that's kind of cool. I mean, there was a prologue before it. It told about a young man is on the run or something like that
in a time of crime. And
yeah, and as an origin story, that's where they decided to start it. And I was wondering why they didn't show him as a kid, because he starts out. I mean, in the movie, he talks about his dad. His dad wanted to be a pilot and stuff. I would have been interested in that if they were going to do this movie. I would have been interested in that. Him as a kid, because of course, spoiler warning. I guess we should have said that to begin with.
Yeah,
I'll put it in the description. Spoilers. I lost my train of thought.
I know they talk about how he talks about he knows basically the interior and outerior of the Millennium Falcon before he's ever in it.
Yeah, well, I didn't even think about that.
Because his dad said that, or he said
his
dad was
an
engineer or a pilot, or and so.
Yeah, so I was kind of curious about his dad, and then later in the movie, he comes up with the name Solo, actually an Imperial officer that's inducting him into the Imperial Navy, gives him the last name Solo, the recruiter, and did he not have a last name? And that's another thing that I was wondering, what was his, because he said he has no people, so maybe they were going to save that for the sequel. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think of what was the actor's name? I want to get it right. Ehrenreich? Anson? Was it Anson?
Alden.
Alden.
Alden
yeah,
something.
Yeah. My apologies. sometimes I've got so much going on. Names are hard to remember. But what do you think of him as an actor?
I think what the smartest thing at when they made the whole movie was to involve Harrison Ford in it.
Yes, right. I do. Yeah.
Because he said, yeah. Well, Harrison came on the set and he said, hey, me personally, if I was playing Han Solo, I wouldn't say it that way, or I'd say it this way, and it gives it more of a. It's kind of how Ewan McGregor played Obi-Wan, and he looks at and rewatches Alec Guinness' performance.
He did do that. Yeah, and I thought Ewan did an awesome job as Obi-Wan, a young Obi-Wan. And then I know Harrison Ford was on set as like a consultant, but there were times in Alden's portrayal of young Han Solo that. Were right on the mark. I said, that's Han Solo. But there was a few times that it just wasn't there for me. But the young man is a good actor,
Yeah, I think he portrayed to the best of his ability, because it's hard to step in the roles.
Man, can you imagine?
I mean, Alec Guinness alone for at least for Obi-Wan,
yeah.
I could never even imagine someone else filling that role.
And like in Star Trek, Chris Pine and all the other actors, they stepped into iconic roles. I mean, you're just asking for trouble.
Like Chris Pine trying to be William Shatner, it's a little hard to...
Yeah, he did his take of William Shatner, but of course they got away with an alternate timeline there, so he had a little bit more wiggle room. But I thought all the actors in Solo were really good. Mm-hmm. Were really good.
I know I liked L3's performance, the droid. Mm-hmm. She did really good. Kind of adds the.
No, I don't care. I didn't research the actress or voiced her portrayed her. But I thought Corellia was cool. I didn't know it was a factory. It looked like a factory planet, which I thought was pretty cool. It reminds me of Coruscant, which is a city planet, but Corellia is a factory planet. It was cool to see a Star Destroyer up in the air being built,
mm-hmm.
And then lifting up the geodesic domes up there. I thought that was a really cool concept. That was really creative.
You don't really see a lot of that in the rest of Star Wars, as far as you don't really see things being built. I mean, things are just usually there. Mm-hmm. Star Destroyers are already made, and I mean, there's glimpses at it at the end of Revenge of the Sith when Darth Vader's on the deck talking to the Emperor, and they're building the Death Star, but that's there's no really backstory of where all these ships come from.
Yeah, well, they got to be built somewhere. I mean, it seems to me that they'd be built in space. Might be a little bit easier than to build it on the planet and then have to travel up. But then again, this is fiction. Plus, we're talking about advanced technology. So, I really also, while we're talking about tech, I really like the speeders. All the speeders in this movie I thought were awesome.
Yeah.
Memphis Nest, I like her speeder. I mean, he's got the toy, and I really want that. Now that I've seen Solo, I do want all the toys, because I'll just go ahead and say it. I thought it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. I really liked it.
Yeah.
As far as some of the reviews that I'd heard, like it's a heist movie, it's this, and no, I mean it's a little bit of everything. I really enjoyed it. There's some things in there. I thought it was maybe a little bit too long. I mean, it was 2 hours and 15 minutes or something like that?
I mean, I saw it in theaters and it was rough because that premiere was late at night. It was a midnight show, and then I didn't get home till 2, 3 in the morning, and it's hard to sit in a theater and watch a movie and then compared to like what you did and rent it and you can stop and go.
Well, I'm so busy in my life. I had the first one I had to stop and watch it, like stop or pause and then go back like 5 times, and then the second time I was able to watch it all the way through. But most of the time I had to stop, which is not really cool. I like to sit all the way through, so that's why I watched it a second time. I had the opportunity to. So, were the stormtroopers in this movie clones?
It's hard to say, because episode 3, in between 3 and 4 is really when we start seeing a difference from... And they touched up on this in the Clone Wars TV series, that they were running out of DNA for Jango Fett, and that's why they stopped making clones. It's because they didn't have enough juice to keep making.
But when does this movie take place?
Between 3 and 4.
Between episode 3
and 4. Revenge of the Sith, and then A New Hope.
And A New Hope. Okay, so Revenge of the Sith is the Empire's taken over, and as we see in Han Solo, and then in A New Hope, we've got an older Han who's a little bit more seasoned. Lando's now over Bespin. So, how many years between? I hate to be, but I like to look at the timeline. How many years was there between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope? I mean, because Luke and Leia were babies.
I think it's about 18 years.
You know, it's been 20 years. So
18,
this movie takes place probably
10,
12, okay,
somewhere in there.
So this is a Han that's probably about 10 years younger than the one in New Hope.
Yeah, which is about accurate because. But for me, the only thing that my only con about Solo was this: I wish they hadn't mentioned Beckett when Beckett says there's a job on Tatooine.
Yeah,
go work
that's what confused me a little bit.
Because they kind of set it up for he doesn't look seasoned enough for how Han Solo looks in 4.
Well, that's why I was wondering because, I mean, they're getting ready at the end of Solo. They Han and Chewie take off to head to Tatooine to meet Jabba the Hutt. And does Han work for Jabba the Hutt for 10 years? You know, until A New Hope starts? I guess he could. I guess he could be a smuggler for 10 years until A New Hope. So anyway, I've got a note here. Oh yeah, there was a gap, and this thing I didn't like about it is because when Kira gets kidnapped there at the beginning of the movie, away from Han's stuck in the transport. They all of a sudden go 3 years later. I really didn't like that very much. I'd like to know what happened in those 3 years because we're supposed to just like assume that he got really good as a pilot.
Well, there was a deleted scene.
Oh, there was?
Yeah, and he was in a TIE fighter, and he almost crashes into a cruiser.
Oh, well, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I don't want. No, I wrecked it for you.
Well, that's no. I've seen the movie. I mean,
and
if
so
it's deleted, then was it meant to be in there? You know, Ron Howard deleted it, I guess, but.
And then I guess so that explains why he goes from being a pilot to, and he gets in trouble with the Navy, and they say you're going to the.
Yeah.
You're going to the infantry.
Yeah. Well, I didn't like that time jump. I don't know why. I'd have to think about it some more. But then we jump 3 years, and he's, got kicked out. And what's he doing then?
He's on Mimban, ain't he?
Yeah, but he's not. He says he got kicked out of the
officer academy.
So now he's just a grunt.
Yeah, he's an infantry.
Which I like their helmets, by the way. You know, I mean, they remind me of the Walker helmets. You know, Walker product.
AT-ST walkers.
Which those drop ships were pretty cool. That drop the AT-STs. I like seeing stuff like that. I liked it when they put them in. How do the Walker? I always wondered that when I first saw Empire Strikes Back. How does Walker
get on the planet?
Get on the planet? You know, they just appeared, and there you go. You get to see it, which is cool. You know, it
adds depth.
Wouldn't it have been better just to have, you know, an air assault instead of dropping a walker and let the walker walk? But you know, it's a Star Wars. And I'm not complaining because it's cool. You know, that's something that I'm not going to argue about. But did you notice a lot of homages to the other Star Wars movies when they were like the catchphrases? Mm-hmm. Like
Lando.
I got a good feeling about this, and Lando said, "Hey Han," called him Han.
Yeah, Han.
And I think he called him Han in Return of the
Said, "Hey Han, how you doing? You old pirate, so good to see you."
Yeah.
And it adds good depth to it. It's not it's not cut. You know, they're not trying to make it identical. They're just trying to.
Yeah, but I did notice there were several catchphrases in there, which I liked it. I mean, you could overdo something like that, of course, but And there are people, I've heard people complain about they didn't want to know where all his accessories, like his pistol, come back. But I didn't think they overdid it.
I think they did a good job because Beckett hands it to him and he's,
Yeah.
he's sincere about it, and that's why it shows that Han really treasures the little things that he does have.
Now the dice, I would have liked to know where those came from because I mean they show them, it's visible, and then he has an emotional attachment because he gives them the cure and she gives it back to him later. But I'd like to know where those came from.
It would be a good. And then I know the game Sabacc was actually made just for that movie.
Oh yeah,
it's not a real game. I mean,
yeah.
So it'd be cool to actually learn how to play.
Yeah. Well, it's like Star Trek. They had tri-dimensional chess, and I mean they have it. You can buy that chess set now, but it's basically just one chessboard, but it's divided on 3 levels. I've got the directions at home.
Do you?
Yeah, how to make one. So, what do you think of the train sequence?
I think it was good. I liked the range troopers. They looked really cool with the white fur armor, and the magnet boots were cool, and it wasn't just oh, there's stormtroopers all over again. It's something new, and the same can be said with the stormtroopers on the Mimban. They're all dirty and grimy looking.
Well, that's the thing about Star Wars. Everything was weathered and well used in the first Star Wars, and that was different. I mean, a lot of science fiction movies before that, everything was nice and clean. They always thought the future was going to be clean, but the windows are dirty. I mean, I like that. It's realistic.
Yeah. I mean, I like that just with the Millennium Falcon alone. It went from being a nice ship to just a piece of crap.
You go. Yeah. I didn't realize it. I mean, because like I said, I'd seen pictures of the Millennium Falcon before, and I'm thinking, well, what are all those the panels? And now I realize, because a lot of vehicles do have body panel. They're body panels, and they get knocked off. I mean, every once in a while you'll see somebody driving around on the street without a fender on their vehicle. So yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be a hunk of junk that's really fast. So in hot rods they might call it a sleeper, but yeah, I mean, the body panels are all knocked off, and so that kind of makes sense. Yeah. Now it didn't. Okay, before we jump to you want to talk about Millennium Falcon? Mm-hmm. The escape pod. I wanted to see inside that. I don't recall seeing inside. Did they show it? Mm-mm. I wanted to see inside that sucker.
But it's weird because in Revenge of the Sith, it doesn't have an escape pod. There's a scene in Coruscant.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. And it doesn't have an escape pod. But it's funny because Lando says, "Yeah, I've been around. I've been around a lot. You can tell Lando's been a seasoned guy.
Yeah.
And so he's obviously been to Coruscant, I'm sure. And then he said, "Yeah, I just put this new escape pod on." So I wonder. So that gives it more of a time accuracy of. It's not during Revenge of the Sith, but it's not.
Yeah.
Kind of in between the two.
Well, the Millennium Falcons had a lot of owners. I can't remember the number. It's like 26 or something like that. It's had a bunch of different names in the lore. But I thought the escape pod. I don't know. I'd like to see inside it because it had. I mean, the Millennium Falcon's a freighter, and it's the pincers are designed to grab onto something and push it to outer space like big old cargo holes. You can look it up on the internet and you can see pictures of it. It looks pretty cool. It's almost like a tugboat. But
of other stuff.
Yeah, but it pushes like a tugboat does. And I guess the mandibles might move or may not move. I don't know. I've never seen it in action, But he put an escape pod on in front of it, and I'm thinking, how do you get in it? How did you get into the escape pod from the Millennium Falcon? Now, I built the models, and there's a window on front in the models. Some places that's where the missiles come out of, so I was kind of curious. But see, that's something in science fiction happens all the time, because you look at Star Trek Deep Space Nine, when the Defiant hooks up to it, there's really no place on the Defiant for it to hook up on. But anyway, so I thought the train sequence was awesome. I've kind of seen it before, though, in a TV series called Firefly, and they had an episode called The Train Job. That was pretty cool. This reminded me of it, but not enough to where it made me mad or anything. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the train job. But when they blew the tracks for the train, well, why did they blow the tracks other than they didn't want to wake up the Viper droids? But then the Viper droids would have been woke up by the explosion. But anyway, the train goes off, that one freight car that they cable away, is it the only one that has the hyperfuel in it? Because the rest of the train didn't seem to explode much.
Well, I think it was just one shipment of.
Is it okay? I didn't know what else was in the rest of the train, but they blew it up and it closed down. I thought, man, what a waste. I mean, why don't you just steal that one cargo thing?
Steal the whole train.
Well, yeah. I mean, they already unhooked it. So I'm thinking, why don't you just take that one, and might be a little bit quieter. But that's not anything that bothered me a whole lot about it. But then when that one freight car did explode, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it shows that this hyperspace fuel, if used wrong, can be a really bad thing altogether.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you picked it up or not, when Han goes to grab Chewbacca, and he's like, Chewie! And it was really significant how much he cares about Chewbacca.
Yeah, and that's how he got his name. What do you think about Chewbacca that was eating prisoners before Han met? So,
I don't know if he actually was eating them. I think he was just drowning them.
Feeding to the beasts.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like an old campfire story. Oh, the Wookiee's gonna.
Yeah. Well, they can be ferocious. I mean, he ate a porg.
Yeah.
The Last Jedi.
Yeah, and he's not.
Well, no, he didn't eat a porg. He was going to though. But Wookiees can tear your arms out of your sockets
when they lose.
Yeah, especially when they use it. Was it a spot?
No, it was the Durjek table.
So Lando cheated at cards.
So, that kind of reflects him as a character, because you always can tell. I don't want to say Lando's really sketchy, but at least I've always thought he was very sketchy in Empire Strikes Back, and so it reflected his character of who he. I mean, he's a good guy, but he's an anti-hero.
Yeah,
he can be good and he can be really bad.
Yeah, I kind of like that unpredictability to a point. But at the end of Return of the Jedi, he's a general. So was Han. So, which kind of bugged me. He was a general at the end of. Both of them were generals at the end of Return of the Jedi, but in The Force Awakens, Han was just back to smuggling again. So Lando and L3 had a relationship.
Yeah, that was. I don't want to upset people out there, but I didn't like it. I think it was a little cheesy. But me, if I was gonna write it, I'd rather him have just been in love with the ship, and she had already been connected to the ship, and that's why he loved the ship so much.
Yeah.
But you.
Yeah.
A droid's a droid. I mean, you could say the same for C-3PO and even Anakin, for that matter. Not that same relationship, but very. Droids are always so influential in Star Wars. They always have been.
Well, that's what I love about Star Wars. The first, the original trilogy, the Ridge Tridge, is that the droids were helpful. They had a little bit of comedic value, but that was about it. In the prequels, they added a lot of comedic value, to the point where it was just, okay, they're just stupid, or silly. And then now, I just didn't think it was really necessary to put that in there. I liked L3, and Lando, Mr. Glover as an actor, but why? Why? But, you're overstating it. I mean, if it were a space story about, relationships with droids and stuff, but it was unnecessary. If you cut some of that out to where Lando cares about his droid, which of course you can become care about an inanimate object because you've been with it for so long, and these interact back with you. It's like a car. I love that car. I don't want to get rid of it or something. But adding that was just it's just necessary. You can overdo it. It was necessary. They're doing that a lot in these movies, and it almost seems like a reflex of action, or their own kind of backlash against some of our stuff that's going on in society now. It's Star Wars. You don't have to do that. Do it with Star Trek. Star Trek is relevant to social times. Star Trek has a lot of social commentary that's going on right now, but this is Star Wars. This is not the same thing. Anyway, that's my take on it. It didn't make me mad or anything.
Yeah. I mean, me personally, I love the droids. I've always liked the droids. They are droids, but it's not. I like that they can be their own character, but I don't need them front and center for every.
What do you think about the revolt scene? Where she L3,
I didn't really. I mean, I would have rather them had just been fighting. Because Kessel's supposed to be a prison. It's not, and it is in the legends. It's a prison. You can't get to Kessel. It's a imperial prison for all the worst criminals. I know Thrawn visited a bunch in some of the comic books, and it was like, you don't go there. It's you put all the world's deadliest criminals in that place, and it's kind of weird because there is like some callbacks to the other movies, like we'll be thrown in the spice mine to Kessel and smashed into a million bits. And it was good to bring that into the storyline, but as far as the droids go, it's
with droids though, it seems like there's a line there or a fuzzy line, because there are servants, but we made them in our image, well, at least C-3PO and humanoid bipedal droids, but and they can have a sense of humor, but they were revolting. I'm thinking, Isaac Asimov had the 3 rules of robots, and that just didn't make any sense to me. It's revolting like that, and it's more social justice thing, I do believe, and I don't think that was. If they spent a little bit of time on it, but they spent too much time on it, I think. I mean, it did throw some stuff into chaos. I mean, if she would reprogram them all real quick to revolt, that would have made a lot more sense.
Yeah, and hacked into their personal mainframes. But just say, hey, you know what they're doing to you? A lot of these basic droids are basic droids. Like the Gonk droid was one of them. Gonk.
Yeah, so, Gonk. I mean, he's a power droid, so I guess he recharges stuff. But why was he revolting? I mean, he's doing his job.
Why does he have to revolt?
How's he mistreated? Yeah. So anyway, that was odd, as far as I was concerned. And we got to see the Falcon's exhaust. I'd never seen that in a movie that close when they fire the Falcon up right there.
And it goes from red
and they take off from that. Yeah. And the back, it looks like there's a couple planes that actually moved too. And to focus the blast maybe a little bit. Yeah. Well, the top, there's like a top lip and a bottom lip. And it seemed like it went like that, but maybe not. It might have been, a visual distortion or something from the exhaust. But it was cool to see it finally.
But if it was that way, it's kind of it would have reminded me of how a lot of these like fighter planes start up that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Like propulsion system of pushing the
ramjets or whatever.
Yeah, and then pushing it out a certain way.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the monster in space at the end, toward the end? The big tentacle
in the maw.
Yeah.
I think it was very weird. It threw me off when I saw it in theaters, and I had to sit. I got home that night after seeing it in the theaters, and I was trying to do research on it. It was actually one of the more interesting things about the movie. And I'm like, what is this creature? And I thought they were going to try and do a reference to the Yuuzhan Vong, which is an alien species from another galaxy.
Oh.
That's in the Star Wars legend, but it's not.
Yeah, well, I feel like this monster, it's the one in The Empire Strikes Back that was in the asteroid, the big worm. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me, because you got these big, huge monsters that probably have to sit for hundreds or thousands of years till something comes across and they eat it. And this one was confined to that maelstrom, and so he just lays out there, and then he can come active all of a sudden. Well, I guess it's possible, but you know what I noticed about him? That when he opened his mouth to go after the Millennium Falcon, he had saliva. I don't know, should not be frozen. I guess I'm crazy thinking about these little things like that.
Well, I have the same
He
problem.
was so huge, this freaking huge monster moving after this little bitty Millennium Falcon. I'm thinking, well, he must be hungry, but where's he getting that energy from?
Well, he did say there are creatures that feed on the methane gas. And
Maybe that's what it was, and he just didn't want to. Okay, I'm sorry. I guess I missed that part, but
I think I was it.
man, he's feeding
was
on farts.
Somebody. I think it was Kira or maybe it was Lando that was explaining what's. No, it was L3 was explaining to Kira what's in the. She said, "Yeah, that's why ships don't go back."
Oh, okay.
He said once they get lost in the path, they don't come back.
Okay, well maybe he was big. I just he was just huge, you know, in space. It seems like Star Wars got to have a tentacle monster in every episode, in some way, shape, or form.
Let's see, there's a.
But like I said, it wasn't enough to make me mad or anything like some other movies might have. But so the gravity well looked really cool, though. I mean, it was a. You know what that reminded me of? In the first.
Are you gonna say Firefly?
No.
Oh,
The
okay.
rebooted 2009 Star Trek. At the end of that, they're trying to get away from the singularity that the Romulan ship is created from red matter that gets injected into the engine. So here we got Beckett injects some red substance into the engine, which is the
Coaxium.
Yeah, and they take off real well. It's the engine down.
Ship dies.
But in I'm sorry, in the Abrams movie, they eject the core. Is what they do, and explodes that takeoff. But they did use red matter in that movie. It kind of reminded me of that sequence a little bit, where they're trying to escape singularity. But it was still cool, though. I mean, and it ate the monster. That was cool. I did. You know, gravity well.
It reminded me of. I know I'm gonna sound terrible for saying this reference, and it's gonna be one of the worst references I've ever figured. But in Green Lantern.
I like that movie.
I didn't like a Green Lantern.
I
don't really like Ryan Reynolds that much, but that's just me. I don't like Ryan Reynolds.
Everybody likes Ryan Reynolds, I think, except for you.
Except for me. But no, when there's the scene at the end where he has to fight the giant monster, and then the sun sucks him in, and it's very.
Oh yeah.
Very similar.
Yeah. Well, we won't talk about the Green Lantern since you want to talk about it.
It's not that I didn't like the Green Lantern. I thought they could have done better with it. I would have rather seen bad Sinestro than good
the
Sinestro.
CGI wasn't very good, but it could have been better. I mean, it's not one of my favorite movies, but I didn't hate the Green Lantern. Not as much as Ryan Reynolds does, but I don't know if he hates it or not. But I liked it. I mean, he at the end of Deadpool 2, he shoots himself when he's reading the script to change the timeline. But so they trashed the Falcon pretty bad, didn't they?
And then they crash on the planet.
Yeah.
And it's
I did
tore
notice.
up.
I did notice that in Star Wars, the Millennium Falcon has a different set of landing gear, and then in Empire Strikes Back, it has a different set of landing gear. And I noticed in this one, Solo, that the front landing gear gets trashed, and so I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not. But I like that they paid attention to that. I mean, the Millennium Falcon is a character now in these movies. So what do you think of Darth Maul?
Oh, Darth Maul. I'm 50-50 about Darth Maul right now.
He looked like he just woke up to me. You know what?
Yeah,
he looked like he just woke up or something from his sedimentation
why are you
chamber.
calling me? I'd rather somebody had just spliced in Harrison Ford's voice and just had him talk over it. And what's going on here?
What
are we doing?
So, okay. Yeah, I guess it's the same actor that played Darth Maul.
Ray Park.
Yeah, and Ray Park's awesome actor, awesome martial artist. He looked like he just woke up to me, or maybe it's just a hologram. I don't know. Why was he in it? I don't really. Is that for the sequel? Maybe that they were setting up.
Well, I don't want to ruin anything, but he's in the Clone Wars really heavy.
Yeah.
And he comes back from the dead. He's on a I won't wreck anything, but he's on a planet and he's in a trash heap basically.
Yeah.
And he's got parts for legs because obviously Obi-Wan cut him in half. Spoiler alert! Oh, poor kids at home watching. No! But no, so he's cut in half, and then throughout the Clone Wars, there's actually a little bit of backstory to how he becomes the leader of all these crime syndicates.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I didn't know that. But see, I haven't seen all the Clone Wars animated series, so I'm behind. But I noticed he lit his lightsaber up for some reason, and then he turned it off. I don't know what was going on with that.
Sorry.
So.
Shoes. Where are the shoes?
So, and I don't know what she had to do with it. I mean, I guess she's a member of that?
Yeah, so I think there's 9 total factions that run, well, Darth Maul runs the 9 different factions. One's the Pikes, one's the Crimson Dawn, of course. Yeah. A couple are, I believe one's the Mandalorians from Mandalore. I'd have to pull up the whole list.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, buddy.
Can I make a YouTube video?
Sorry about that. We had to take a break. So we were talking about Darth Maul. Oh, yeah. He lit his lightsaber and he closed it, and then I think he was just showing off, I guess. Of course, if I had that lightsaber, I would too. And then Kira, I guess she's in that signet. She was not only in Crimson Dawn, she's maybe a level up. I don't know.
She's now, she take, what's his name's position? As leader of that crime family. It's kind of like the Godfather. He kind of a deal.
She lied to him, though. She lied to Darth Maul. Said that Beckett killed him, so I guess Darth Maul going to use his Jedi mind trick. You know, tell me the truth. I mean, Jedi can, or Sith, can they tell if you're lying or not?
Maybe.
Did you notice Warwick Davis is one of the rebels?
Wasn't he one of the guys that was?
Yeah, he was Ewok.
Ewok in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. I thought that was cool to see him. Didn't have to wear an Ewok mask.
I like that about Disney. They'll bring back certain characters to play certain roles, even if it's someone different. Because he was in a Phantom Menace too.
Yeah. I like that though. So, Han shot Beckett. What do you think about that? That kind of was jarring to me because I knew he shot first. Of course, there's that thing about Hayden shooting first in the cantina. He shot Greedo, but that was took me out of it for some reason.
I liked it because it shows that Han through this and a whole adventure of his has learned that you really can't trust anybody, and it's actually a funny callback to The Last Crusade of Indiana Jones, when Walter Donovan says it to Indiana Jones. He says, "Hey, good luck, Dr. Jones. Don't trust anybody." And then later on in the movie, he betrays him, of course. So it's not that it's the same, but it's, you know, something that a lot of characters as heroes, they're like, why did I trust that guy? Why? And then, so I think, you know, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. And of course, he shoots him, which is kind of poetic because it's.
You thought so?
I think it was. It gave Han Solo the fact.
Han Solo was being such a good guy, and then he shoots Beckett while he's talking to him. But you know, Beckett was moving his hand towards his blaster. That reminds me of the episode of Firefly. I'm not kidding.
You're gonna say you're at.
Well, yeah, Mal. No, it was Serenity, the movie Serenity. You know, Mal's they're talking to this assassin that's came after him. He says, "You're not the plucky hero," and he just shoots him while he's
still mid-sentence.
Yeah. Which that's totally in line for that character, but it kind of jarred me a little bit. But then again, I've got a feeling, I don't know why, if it has something to do with the cantina. You know, Han will shoot first. And I guess when you're, I mean, if smuggling, I mean, this is Star Wars, so life and death happens all the time. Even though it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't hit you that hard because unless it's like Yoda dying. But people die in these movies. They get blown away in the spaceships and shot. They're dead. But seeing the hero do it to another one of the antagonists or protagonists in there. I don't know. It caught me off second, but I thought about it for a minute and I was okay with it.
I think he was just ready to just hang it up with Beckett. He's like, I'm done with this. Man. Yeah. He's like, I'm done. I'm done listening to you, and I'm done.
But then he goes over and holds him,
Yeah.
And he wanted to play that harp. Okay.
It's sincere, but it's also poetic because he's just like, rule number one, kid, don't trust anybody because just know everyone's going to betray you. Which,
well, I guess Beckett was his model of how to be in the smuggling business. I guess or his template. What kind of, I don't know what kind of role model that would be for your life, but I mean, it's hot. So that's all I know. Is, that's when people are all that they know.
Yeah. I don't want to say now I'm going to have another reference to The Last Crusade, but in the very beginning of the movie, he admires the guy that gives him the hat. In the very beginning.
Go. Yeah,
and
that's a good point.
I don't know why I connect the two movies. Maybe it's Harrison Ford movies, but just the sincerity, and then not that he kills the guy, obviously, but you idolize somebody, and then you become that person.
Well, it may be a nod to Harrison Ford. I mean, this is a Star Wars movie. Steven Spielberg was in partners with George Lucas, for a while. I think he had input.
Well, George Lucas helped write all three of the Indiana Jones movies.
Yeah. So there you go. They're
I'm sure he said something about
that
it.
That would make sense to me. And that's a really good point. That's a really good point. That didn't occur to me.
I guess I just pick up on I just connect franchises very well, I guess.
Well, that's all the notes I had about this. Was there anything that you wanted to add? I mean, the story was a little bit too complicated for me. I don't have a problem with complicated stories, but it's Star Wars. It's supposed to be a certain thing, I don't want it to be too complicated. I'm there to escape, and I wanted it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the movie. I liked the movie. I will buy the toys, and if they made a sequel to it, I'd watch it. There are those people who wondered why it was made in the first place, but they made it. I enjoyed it, and I thought it was maybe too complicated, maybe too long. I had issues with it. It wasn't the best Star Wars movie, but in my hierarchy, so far, A New Hope is still my favorite. And I'm not going to talk about the bottom one.
You're going to say Phantom. You're going to say a Phantom Menace because of Jar Jar Binks.
No.
Oh, okay.
Last Jedi is at the bottom, and A New Hope is the top, and Solo is probably in the middle. Because believe it or not, I think I might like Solo maybe just a hair better than Return of the Jedi. But I don't know. I'd have to think about it. But it's in the middle.
Well, what do you mean you'd have to think about it? That's a given.
Hmm?
Come on, Ewoks compared to Han Solo. I'm just.
I don't want to be blasphemous, but Return of the Jedi was good, but there's some stuff in it I just didn't care for.
I thought it was overcomplicated.
Yeah, well.
I mean, I thought Luke could have just
Anymore
pulled
than
out his
the Phantom
lightsaber
Menace.
and thrown his lightsaber and killed Jabba from the get-go. And
What now?
don't you think that could have been a good option? He could have just asked R2 for his lightsaber and thrown it at Jabba and killed him on the spot? I mean, that would have...
Well, yeah, I mean, well, take a look at Infinity War. You remember the part where the Doctor Strange's co-worker, I guess, at the
the Battle of New York.
the Oriental guy,
Yeah.
Remember when he was fighting in Central Park there, and he created a portal, and and threw him into the Arctic, and he went out to reach up, and then he closed the portal on that creature's arm, and cut the arm off. Why did they do that to Thanos? That's all they would have had to done, you know, in the movie, but the movie would have been over. You know, throw Thanos in the portal, and we went to reach back up, cut his arm off, and the Infinity Gauntlet would have been off his arm. But, you know, yeah, you're right. I mean, there's ways to end a movie really quick if you think about it. But I don't want to monopolize. You know, I liked it, and I had issues with it, but it wasn't as bad as some people say it was.
No, I think a lot of people got really offended by the fact that Star Wars wasn't, well, this movie especially wasn't so, excuse me for saying this, Disney friendly, family friendly, because Star Wars has always had a bad side to it. I mean, there has to be. You can't have bounty hunters and have them be nice, loving people. They're bounty hunters. They kill people.
Yeah, well, people get killed in these movies.
And, you know, that when the people are like, oh, they're selling spice, which is basically drugs.
It's a drug. Yeah.
But that's...
And people stealing all the time,
There's people stealing, there's people killing each other. That's
murder, betrayal.
But it's a reflection of just
war.
Society we live in. I mean, that's every day nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, there's war going on right now.
Well, you know, Star Wars is technically a space opera, and operas often have tragedies in them. I mean, Star Trek is a science fiction. Star Wars would be considered a space opera, and they're two different things. You know what? And that's what, like, I'd be happy to make one of the movies, you know. I would try anyway. You got to keep in mind, it's a space opera. Not too much SJW stuff, you know. You know, it's a fight between good and evil, and I know Carrie Fisher, it's about family, and that is a part. I mean, part of it was about the Skywalker family, you know, but it's a space opera.
Yeah.
At least that's what George Lucas called it.
Yeah, and I think that he had the right concept, and when you go from just trying to tell a story to just pushing as much in as you can, then you oversell your point.
I put that in my Star Wars video, how I felt about everything, and you know, when George Lucas he had the power to change so much stuff in these prequels and put so much in there. He won't put too much in there, you know. You know, a work of art is never finished; it's merely abandoned. You just got to walk away, you know, because you can overdo it in anything, you know. So
yeah, and I think people have the wrong idea about George Lucas. I think if George Lucas asked every fan how they want a Star Wars movie to be made, we wouldn't have any Star Wars movies.
Yeah,
I mean, you couldn't just.
Yeah.
And it's a reflection of him as a person, also.
Star Wars is almost more like a feeling, you know. It's epic.
It's experience.
Swashbuckling, you know. I remember at one point, George Lucas' Star Wars was about the adventures of two droids. Of course, now it's expanded. So, literally, there's an expanded universe, too. You know, I mean, it's taken up its own mythology.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much material out there, and I don't want to say I'm mad at Disney for saying, oh, none of that stuff's canon.
Yeah.
But it hurts because as a kid growing up, you read a lot of this content and you grow to love some of these characters, and then they say those characters aren't real. They're not.
Yeah, that pissed me off.
And it hurts. You know, you're like, for me, for the longest time, Grand Admiral Thrawn. I loved Thrawn. I thought he was smart, clever.
We're going to talk about him in the next video.
Yeah, we'll touch base on him. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, getting rid of canon. I mean, people got a lot of time, money, you know, and emotion invested in this, and say, "Oh, that doesn't matter anymore." And that's not cool.
It's kind of like a slap in the face.
Yeah, yeah. So, but now I've heard they've taken some of it back. You know, don't get rid of canon. I mean, you know, it's
some of the best storytelling is made is in some of the Legends writing, and not just. I mean, the whole storyline with the Emperor coming back as a clone is more, for me, more appealing than watching The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi. I think having a clone Emperor would have been a lot better. And they have the perfect acting for it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's great. I mean, he's
Yeah.
I think one of the most evil people. I mean, he plays one of the most evil people in all of the universe that's ever going to be. So, but he's actually, I guess, one of the nicest guys in the world.
Yeah, well, as actor, yeah. Yeah, people think that's real, though. I mean,
Well, he's
they get really hateful. You know, I'm going to do a video about backlash one of these days. I mean, you don't blame the actor; they're just doing their job.
Yeah.
So, and the director, you know, Ron Howard came in, and he inherited this.
He was like
I
the
think he
third
did a good
director.
job.
He was
Yeah.
like the third director, second
Yeah,
or
so,
third.
you know, that's not his fault. But he took some lemons and made some pretty good lemon juice. So.
What do you think? How many stars do you think? I give it 8.
Oh, stars.
I give it 8 out of 10. 7.5, 8. That's my. I'm Star
I'll
Wars
give it a
biased,
7.
so
I give it a 7. Yeah, with New Hope being 10. Yeah.
I think Empire's 10 for me. 9.5. I probably put Blade Runner above Empire though.